I've heard a lot of chronic illness warriors say that switching to a plant-based diet has been extremely helpful to them. But of course, there are those of us who are like, what? Vegan diet? No way. Or maybe your thought is, there is no way that will help me. Or it's too time consuming. Or too expensive to eat that way. If any of this sounds like you, then get ready to hear health coach Kathy A. Davis explain all about plant-based eating today on Chronically Living. I'm Kelsey Harris, chronic illness warrior and psychotherapist. On Chronically Living and How to Make the Most of It, we're providing tangible ways to improve the well-being of Spoonies. So get ready to make the most out of your life, even with that pesky chronic illness.
My name is Kathy Davis. I am a plant-based lifestyle coach, cookbook author, and the CEO of Veg Inspired. And I help busy professionals transition to a plant-based way of eating that alleviates stress and overwhelm and helps them make it a way of life. I'm super excited to be here. I'm actually calling in from Georgia, Central Georgia right now, because fun fact, I travel the United States in a fifth wheel RV with my husband and our cats.
Kathy is here today to talk to us about the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle. So naturally, I wanted to know why that's a choice she made for herself.
So about 8 years ago, I was kind of introduced to the idea of plant-based eating. My husband brought it up, which is usually backwards. Usually it's the wife or the female that brings it up. And it's usually because we hear something, read it in a magazine. And he was actually the one that said, I think we need to try this. We need to eat more plants. And I was like, okay, I'll eat more plants, but I'm not going vegan. Like, I'm not going to be vegan. Like, that can't be. I mean, I grew up in a household where we ate a lot of meat. Meat and potatoes was kind of our thing. And the more plant-based meals I ate, the easier it became to realize that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I really started to learn that the foods made me feel better. I could eat a lot of my favorite flavors and textures using plants. And it really just became easy and more of a way of life. And the more I added plant foods and crowded out the animal products, I realized I felt better. And so that was 7.5 years ago. And now I'm gone pretty much eaten on every end of the vegan spectrum, everything from whole food, plant-based, minimal salt, no oil, all the way to the full-on vegan junk foodie, eating at all the places. And I have to say, I love every option that we have, but whole plant-based foods make me feel the best for sure.
Okay, so eating this way has made Kathy feel better. But what does that mean? What are the benefits of a plant-based diet and why should we consider trying it?
The benefits that I've seen, a huge benefit that I had was just overall health and energy. I sleep better. My digestion is better. I was able to lose and maintain a significant amount of weight. And what I really love about just the plant-based eating in general is I love to make meals that are colorful, and plant foods are so colorful. You've got all the different veggies, all the different flavors, all of these different, rainbow like meals that come together, and they just bring me happiness, overall mood. And, there's a lot of research that points to food equals our mood, right? What we eat makes us either happy, increases endorphins, increases serotonin. And I really feel that when I eat those whole plant foods, salads for lunch with lots of whole grains, whole starches, unrefined, they just bring me this rejuvenated energy and just this general joy of eating and cooking. And also, one of the big things that I really love about it is I do work with clients based on any goal that they have. So I do have some clients with weight loss goals that have started to see the scale move, which they love, but also some clients with some medical concerns that they're reversing. And my favorite phone calls are, I went to the doctor and this is what the doctor said, because I work very authentically with my clients. I am not prescribing anything. So they have to work in conjunction with a medical practitioner. And they usually call with these amazing results. My numbers look better. My doctor reduced my meds. I feel better. My blood sugar's in control. And it lights me up because I know the power of plants. I know what it did for me. I know what the research says. But when I get a client that's like, I've never felt better, or I'm so happy that I'm eating this way now because my energy is up. I don't have the cravings that I used to have. I'm not, getting home and just snacking because I'm eating enough food during the day to fill me up, but not, make me feel stuffed or over full.
Yeah.
And you can always snack on fun things like frozen grapes or apples.
Yay, healthy sugars. It's true though. I noticed that when I actually fill up on a lot of healthy food, I don't want to snack as much. Or when I do snack, it is literally on things like fruit or maybe some dark chocolate because, not that I am in any way perfect at this. I'm interested in the specific health benefits of some of the individual plant-based foods.
One of the things that I really like are blueberries. So blueberries are really high in antioxidants. They really just drive that. For me, they just energize me in the morning. I love to eat them with my oatmeal. And then one of the other things I started to find was things like oatmeal, white potatoes, sweet potatoes. I know you're probably listener thinking, oh my gosh, carbs, but these are intact, unrefined carbs, totally different than the donuts and the pizza that we always associate carbs with. But those types of foods, the oats, the potatoes, they keep me satiated. And for so long, I would go through these restrictive movements of where I was trying to get to a certain goal and I wouldn't eat the potato, but I was constantly hungry, right? Like I would eat lettuce and all these veggies and all these, foods that didn't fill me up. And then I would complain that I was always hungry or felt things were so restrictive. And with plant-based eating, I can really eat these whole plant foods as kind of as much as my heart contends, as long as I'm feeling full and I really track into how certain foods make me feel. And like I said, boiled potatoes are my number one snack. I go to it because it fills me up for the afternoon. If I need to chop them up and add them to my salad, it's like this perfect little, I don't know, they always say like a perfect little package from Mother Nature with the right amount of energies, the right amount of carbs, right calories or energy, and just they keep you fueled for the day. And I just love that. I love fruit as an energizer for the afternoon. Like you said, those healthy sugars, those natural sugars, they really pack in that energy. I work with a lot of clients that get that afternoon slump and they're always, we're talking about, steer clear of that vending machine and grab that fruit out of your purse. Like it's packaged perfectly. You can just wash it off and eat it. And something else that I really started to notice too was when I ate foods like broccoli or even broccoli sprouts, there's just a certain elevation that it gives to both the foods that I eat, but also how I feel. And I noticed that a lot with adding in like ground flax for those omega-3s and omega-6s. So there's certain foods that sometimes I take for granted that I know, add in a tablespoon of ground flax or add in the broccoli sprouts to something to get that sulforaphane and just those healthy antioxidants that really build our immune system. They help to reduce aging. They help to really regenerate our cells and just get us more in line with how we should be feeling.
Okay, here's the problem. It's way easier to grab a bag of chips than to boil a potato. And I mean, technically, it's more rewarding in our brains to eat the chips than the potato, but that's really just a whole nother neuroscience topic.
It is easier to grab a bag of chips or run through the drive-through for some fries, right? And I be the first to admit, I love a good vegan veggie burger and fries. But as I started to eat more whole plant foods and really notice my energy level, my digestion, I started to be able to see the foods that left me feeling not so great. And I always tell people like, I didn't know I could feel as good as I feel now before I started feeling good. Like you just don't know. And some foods that I ate, obviously pre-vegan, like dairy, I never had an intolerance to dairy, but it never really made me feel good. I mean, like if I ate ice cream, I probably had a stomach ache. I just didn't know it. I probably thought I was too full. but it probably really was that it just didn't agree with me. And even now, if I eat too many bags of chips or too much oil, I just feel heavy. And I remember early on in my plant-based journey, somebody said to me, well, how do you feel? It's like, gosh, the best way I can describe it is I just feel lighter. I just feel cleaner. And I don't know how else to say it. And she's like, well, that kind of makes sense, right? Meat takes a long time to digest in our bodies. Heavier foods, oil, there are a lot of calories, but they don't really fill us up. So they leave our body wanting something. And they don't, foods that are high in fiber, which funny, people will always say, one of the deficiencies that we have as humans is typically fiber because we just don't eat enough. And when you eat those higher fiber foods, it just kind of keeps everything moving. It keeps you cleaned out, keeps your, keeps all the things moving through your blood vessels and your digestive system and everything like that. So it really, I kind of went from foods that make you feel bad back to foods that make you feel good, but you start to notice how foods make you feel, like those oily foods, those processed foods. And as somebody who loves vegan products and is fully supportive of the vegan companies, I just don't participate in eating a lot of those processed foods because they don't make me feel good.
So this is interesting because if you listen to the episode with Elizabeth Yarnell, she talked about staying away from processed foods because they don't make us feel good. So even vegan processed foods, they're still processed, leading to the same result. Makes sense.
I definitely don't preach perfectionism. I teach intention over perfection because I feel like that's anytime we preach a perfectionist mindset, it really makes it feel so restrictive that nobody wants to stick to it or we can't stick to it. And so every now and then I'll have that veggie burger and, vegan fries, or I'll buy a pack of vegan cheese, or, for the holidays, I might make some vegan cookies with my mom, just as a tradition. But on the everyday, day in and day out habits that I have, I choose to eat more of whole plant foods.
An important part of this for Kathy is tracking what you're eating and how it makes you feel. I noticed that pretty much everyone who has come on the show to talk about food has said the same thing. So what does Kathy suggest for tracking?
So I'm a full believer in not making it difficult. Many of us, especially busy professionals, we have a planner that we use, we have a calendar, we have checklists everywhere. Drop a smiley face in. Be like, I ate oatmeal with berries, smiley face. I ate a burger and fries, sad face. Make it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I teach meal planning as a number one strategy for sticking to this way of eating. And something that you can do with your meal plan is you can actually just put smiley faces, X's, and really track your food. So it's almost like a food log without having to sit and log our food in an app and, worry about, did we miss something or did we eat a bite of something, but really staying in tune with how you feel. And some things that I like my clients to, the overall feeling, smiley face, sad face, moderate face, that's one thing. But how did you sleep after, going out on that vegan food, binge? Or how did you sleep after eating, a huge steak? Did you sleep different? How do you feel? Like my clients who have been eating plant-based for a while and they're, Thanksgiving's coming up and they're thinking, oh, I might want some turkey. I'm like, I don't teach perfectionism. Go for it. But I'm going to warn you, you might not feel good because your body starts to change the way it processes different foods, and your, the gut flora and your microbiome and in your gut, it really starts to, lean into those plant foods. And so it misses those. And it's like, hey, wait, what are you putting in here? Now I don't know what to do with this. And that's one of the reasons why the daily habits really start to stick, because you feel better. So how did you sleep? How was your digestion? Are you using the bathroom? Are you drinking enough water? How do you feel in general? Are you lagging during the day, or do you have lots of energy? Where, do you eat potatoes for lunch and find that you've got energy to go all the way till dinner? Whereas if you eat just a salad and skip the carbs that you put on it, are you tired in 3 hours? Are you hungry in 3 hours? So really starting to look at those different points on the spectrum and see what side you are in. Are you energized? Are you lagging? Are you hungry? Are you full? Are you satisfied? Are the foods satisfying? Because that's something else we want to track too, is we want you to be eating foods that excite you. That's my number one tip for success. Like, don't plan meals that you're not excited about, because you're going to easily pivot to takeout or eat off the, if the kids are eating chicken nuggets, you're going to pick off of those because you're not excited about your, I don't know, tofu or whatever it is that you might not be excited about yet.
I'm going to recap a bit here. So Kathy mentioned that increases in energy and improved digestion are benefits of a plant-based diet. I know that these are issues often discussed in the chronic illness community because there are so many of us with these problems. I'm also going to answer some of Kathy's questions for myself. How do I sleep after a steak or any red meat? Never well. How do I sleep after a plant-based meal? Much better. How is my digestion when I eat red meat or gluten or dairy or even chicken? It's not great. How about if I avoid these things? It's a lot better. During the day, do I have more energy when I eat some things as opposed to other things? Absolutely. And I am aware of what those are. In this week's Patreon content, Kathy and I talk about water intake and why increased intake is important, especially for a plant-based diet. Okay, so I know that at least some of you are probably not excited about eating plants. You likely love your meat, and hey, I have never been opposed to eating meat. Personally, I love my fish and seafood. But how could we get more excited about eating vegetables?
One of the things that I do really lean into is use familiar foods. When I first started making this transition, I wasn't nearly as excited about vegetables as I am now. And certain vegetables just weren't my thing. And especially the way that they were cooked. I love carrot, didn't really love them cooked. But then I learned that I could roast them and they have a different sweetness. And I didn't love Brussels sprouts in the beginning, but we would get them in our CSA box every week in that season. And I found that if I roasted them with a sweet vegetable like sweet potato or carrots, the Brussels sprouts wouldn't be as bitter or as weird. And then I would drizzle on maybe a little aged balsamic vinegar or maybe a little maple mustard dressing, really starting to use a lot of those familiar flavors. Something else I like to do is pair them with your favorite foods, right? I love noodle bowls. I love buying brown rice noodles, heating them up, and then mixing in vegetables that may not have been my favorite before. Maybe some blanched broccoli, some shredded cabbage, maybe a little bit of avocado, some edamame for that punch of protein, or baked tofu. And you mix it with this yummy Asian style sauce. And it's like you're eating pasta and veggies. You can't go wrong, or noodles and veggies. Or, maybe you make veggie tacos. So you love tacos. You're going to roast up those veggies and use them as a taco filling. And then some other things I like to point out too is when we talk about eating more plants, also think about ways that you can incorporate whole grains. So it doesn't always have to necessarily be, a whole plate of vegetables. You might find that you can eat, oats and berries, or quinoa and your favorite vegetable, maybe quinoa and cauliflower. I love to make cauliflower tossed in buffalo sauce. So how can you take those veggies that may not be your favorite and make them your favorite with a little twist on how you prepare them?
Okay, so one thing I'm always concerned about is whether I should be putting any sauce on my vegetables, just so I'll think they'll taste better and eat them. Is that okay to do?
I'm definitely a queen of sauces. I choose to eat oil-free because oil is, extracted out of the vegetables or whatever item it is. So pulled out of the olive. Whereas if you eat the whole olive, you're getting the fiber and all the other nutrients. If you're eating the whole piece of corn, you're getting that versus the canola oil. If you're eating the avocado versus the avocado oil. So it really keeps the fiber and all of the other nutrients intact. So I choose to eat more aligned with that whole food option. So when I'm roasting, I'll use vegetable broth, and then, like I said, some drizzles of sauces, sometimes a tahini sauce, vinegars, lemon and lime juice are great, a little soy sauce, or a liquid or coconut aminos, depending on if you don't use soy or don't use gluten. Really leaning into those sauces that will help level up your foods. I love barbecue sauce. Just depends.
Kathy has written a handful of cookbooks, so I asked her to share a bit about them because, it's easier to do this plant-based lifestyle with some recipes on hand.
So I have three. And when I wrote them, I wasn't really thinking it was the trifecta, but now that I've looked at them, they really do bust the myths of plant-based eating. The first one is the 30-minute Whole-Food Plant-Based Cookbook, and it really busts that time myth. So that book has everything from your apps and snacks all the way to desserts with soups, handhelds, entrees, and everything in between. And everything's ready in 30 minutes. It uses a lot of common ingredients. We do have a little bit of a play on some soy options versus nut options for people who might, be nut averse. We do have some some additional things with some more unique ingredients like soy curls, but most of the ingredients found in the book you can find anywhere. The second book, the Super Easy Plant-Based Cookbook, busts the myth of it's too hard. And I get that a lot from people. They'll be like, oh, plant-based eating, it's just so hard, so time consuming. And so that one really digs into how to save time, save ease in preparation. So in that book, you're going to get more tips like buy things that are convenient, buy the canned vegetables or canned beans, buy the prepped vegetables, buy frozen vegetables. So in there, what I love about it is it's divided into 4 categories: a no cook category, a one pot category, which have become my new favorites, and then more 30-minute recipes, all exclusive to that book. So no duplicates from my first book. And then the last one are 5 ingredients. And I just love that you can get, meals on the table with only 5 ingredients. And then the third book is the budget-friendly plant-based diet cookbook. And that one busts the myth of expense. Now, the trade-off with budget is you have to do more of the touching. I always tell people, the more time something's touched in the processing, the more expensive it's going to be. So when they prepare the beans and cook them for you and put them in a can, they're going to be more expensive than if you bought dried beans and prepped them yourself. But there's lots of tips. One of the things that I always find fascinating and something that you might not consider, especially for somebody who travels like me, is I always opt to get the store card. So we have a key ring in our pickup truck with our reusable grocery bags that has all of the store cards. And there's some stores that will go in and we'll save $20 or $30 and then turn around and go to their fuel pumps and we get fuel perks as well. And we might save another $20 or $4 or $6, depending on how much we spent. So it really does pay off. It's kind of a pain sometimes to have to fill out all your information, but giving them your phone number makes it easy because you can look it up by your phone number. And that's how we do it in case we don't remember if we have a store card because we travel.
This is really great because as chronically ill people, we run into the problems that Kathy tries to solve with her cookbooks. So some of us lack the energy to spend a lot of time making the food. So quick and or easy recipes are the way to go. And some of you listening may be on disability and not have a lot of money. So being able to cook healthily yet inexpensively is an asset for you.
And that's the beauty of plant-based eating is it can be very, very budget friendly. And even if you do have to buy some things that are prepared for you, you can still get them on a pretty decent budget depending on the grocery store you go to. Or if you do have times of the day, I'm working with somebody right now, and I always say, like, if you have certain times of the day that you feel better, let's plan in to prep your food then and have it ready for later in the day when you just don't feel as good.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. And I also love that, like, you're able to do this living in an RV, right? So, I mean, that takes a lot of maybe misconceptions away of like, oh, I need like a big kitchen space to be able to do all this kind of cooking.
Definitely. We don't have a very big kitchen space. Our RV is only 310 square feet of living space as is. So, we have a nice kitchen for an RV, but when my husband and I are both in there, there's not much space. There's not much counter space. There's not much storage space. And you really start to learn what you really need. And for us, eating whole plant foods allows us to keep in stock those few ingredients, the brown rice, the potatoes, the quinoa, and the beans, the fresh vegetables, the frozen fruits, and really maximize their use. You won't hear me talk too much about fresh fruit because living so close to nature means nature likes to come in and see us. And we often will bring a fruit fly in, and they, how those colonies spread. So we tend to avoid the fresh fruits.
So, lucky day, Kathy is actually going to share a recipe with us so that you can try out one to see if it is something that you like. I tried this recipe the day after I interviewed her and have eaten it many times since. It is actually one of my favorite go-to meals right now because it's very easy to make, inexpensive, and delicious.
One of my favorite recipes is what I call a stuffed sweet potato or even the barbecue sweet potato bowl. And I'm going to just kind of give you both of them because they're kind of similar. And I'm going to give you ideas on cooking, but you can cook your sweet potato however you want. There are microwavable methods if you use the microwave. But what I like to do is like to have my sweet potatoes. So find some that are about the same size, cut them in half, lay them cut side down on a parchment lined baking sheet, and put them in an oven that you've preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I like to do is I like to bake those for 15 minutes. And then I add to that broccoli florets, cauliflower florets, and either black beans or chickpeas. And I actually roast them all together. And then everything's done when the sweet potato, a knife slides easily into your sweet potato. It usually takes another 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of your sweet potato and how crispy you want your vegetable florets cooked. Now I roast mine dry. I might season with a little salt and pepper just because that helps to pull out the water. The salt helps to pull out the water in the vegetables. So it keeps them a little bit more moist to help them retain their moisture. And then I take them out. I make myself a plate. I put the sweet potato on the bottom and then I stuff everything on top. And then I drizzle it with an easy tahini sauce. And my favorite easy tahini sauce doesn't require a blender. And you just do half a cup of tahini, a half a cup of water, 2 minced garlic cloves, and a fourth of a cup of lemon juice. And I like to do the lemon juice and the tahini first, and then add the water to the desired consistency. Every tahini is different. So you might find that you don't need the whole half a cup. You might find that you need a little more. It just depends on that consistency of the tahini. And then I'll drizzle on the tahini sauce. You could also drizzle on maple mustard. I like to do maple syrup and Dijon mustard mixed together. I like to do organic barbecue sauce because it uses cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. But in my first book, I do have a homemade barbecue sauce that's made without sugar because I know a lot of times people try to reduce their added sugar because of the effects that it has on the body and just on how we feel. It's very inflammatory. So, you can really make a lot of variety with that. I know I have a client that loves to add pico de gallo to that because she loves the fresh pop of the tomatoes and the cilantro and the onions and the lime juice. You could do a dollop of guacamole. So you can really make that one meal into multiple ideas, multiple themes, and you could make that and eat that for dinner a couple nights in a row with a different sauce. And it's easy and done already.
And I do have it multiple nights in a row with a different sauce. Okay, so I have Kathy's Super Easy Plant-Based Cookbook, and I've tried a bunch of recipes from it. I have a few favorites, which I have added into my rotation of meals so that while I'm not fully plant-based, I am intentionally eating this way at least a few times a week. Here is Kathy's final tips for plant-based eating.
My biggest tip for anyone interested in just eating more plants or trying to take control of their health with a plant-based way of eating or, really just trying it is honestly just to give it a try. Give yourself grace. Look up the familiar plant-based foods that you already enjoy eating. You're welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to share recipes, but honestly, give yourself grace. Take it one day, one meal at a time. Add more of those plant-based foods and really start to see how you feel. I have so many clients that are starting to notice those benefits, and the power of plants is amazing. There's lots of research. There's loads of recipes out there, but really it's about identifying what's familiar for you, what you're going to enjoy, what excites you, and then taking it day in and day out to get to that place where it's more comfortable.
Are you ready for our lightning round questions?
I am.
All right. So, what are the top 5 songs that describe your life?
Well, funny. My husband and I always say anything Eric Church writes pretty much is spot on, but On the Road Again by Willie Nelson seems to be a common theme right now. Hell of a View by Eric Church is one that we just, wherever we are, we're like, man, that's a hell of a view. And then Happy Anywhere. I only had 3 because those are the ones we do, but Blake and Gwen really put the they really nailed that with happy anywhere, because I'm happy anywhere that I am with my husband and my cat. So I don't need roots. This house on wheels works for me. So that I would say that those are the top three. I don't know that I have five.
That's okay. 3 is great. That's awesome. And they totally make sense for you. What's one thing you can't go a day without doing?
Oh, I used to say drink coffee. I do love my coffee, but now I have to say that taking time for myself in the morning and meditating really does just, it puts my day in such a mood, such a vibe. I mean, it just sets the mood and the tone for the day. And I know when I haven't taken, even if it's just 5 minutes of a little bit of gratitude, really owning and being aware of the things that I'm grateful for. And then, taking a few minutes just to kind of clear my head and calm the chaos that sometimes goes on in there with all my ideas.
Love it. Yes, me too. I'm big on both those things. What's one thing you plan on doing in your life that you haven't yet?
Well, a year ago, I would have told you that I'm going to write a cookbook, but that's been done. And people joke that, I've already done the RV life, but I would say that the next big thing on my list that I want to accomplish is I'd really like to write a book that inspires others towards self-growth and really taking that next step out of their comfort zone. And then the other fun thing is to travel and stay in a bougie oceanfront bungalow. That is also on my list.
Nice. That sounds amazing. Describe your perfect day.
Oh, my perfect day is coffee with a view. Oftentimes we'll be parked in these amazing locations, and the days that start with coffee with a view or coffee, like I said, with that quiet time it definitely starts the day off. And then I love to have calls with my clients in the morning. It just builds me up. It fills my cup. I'm definitely filled up talking to people. And then an afternoon hike or a walk, and then a tasty, fun dinner that my husband and I make together. I mean, that would be the perfect day for me. Beautiful. Oh, and some cat snuggles. I can't forget them.
Of course. And how do you inspire others to make the most of their lives?
Well, I always tell people that it's easier to show you. So I love to just say that I show people that stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't have to be scary or hard. I mean, it might be scary and hard, but it's all worth it. And really sharing those stories and getting the message out there that all it is the baby step outside your comfort zone. And once you get outside your comfort zone, you can start to see what's available to you. And I hope that they just see that plant-based eating and living their dreams is available to them.
Awesome. Where can we find you, follow you, and buy your cookbooks?
Oh, yes. So I'm very active on Instagram at Veg Inspired. I also run and moderate Veg Inspired Foodies Facebook group. It is an easy link is veginspired.com/foodies. So you can easily hop into that community. And then you can buy all my cookbooks on either my website or on Amazon. And if you don't Amazon shop, you can snag the ISBN number from Amazon and have any bookstore order it for you. So I always like to add that in because people are like, oh man, I don't shop on Amazon. So any bookstore can order them.
Perfect. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Kathy, for coming on and sharing all this great information and the recipe and everything with us.
Yes, Kelsey, thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed it. And to everybody, I would love to connect. So let me know that this is where you heard me.
Now, if you're a regular listener of the show, you know that I'm very curious about all these different diets and ways of eating because I have heard that many of them do help with a lot of the issues that I personally have as a result of my autoimmune disease, but that a lot of other people have as well. And, I've also mentioned that I often struggle sticking with one of these diets. So something I know many of you can probably also relate to. However, I wanted to let you all know about some changes that I've made in the last month and a half. So I actually now eat fully plant-based at least 3 to 4 times a week. I found that eggs and dairy are triggers for me, so I've just cut them out. I still eat fish and seafood. And then I will have meat if I'm in a situation where there is nothing else available to me. And of course, that's pretty rare that happens, but I'm not, so stringent on this that I wouldn't eat meat. I've just chosen not to as much as possible. And I've also cut out gluten almost completely as well. So, again, if I'm in a situation where I can't avoid it and I'm starving and, I'm gonna have to eat some gluten, like that's is what it is. But otherwise, I've tried not to eat really any, so I've bought more gluten-free products. Kathy's cookbook has actually helped me a lot with the plant-based meals. So I just want to let you guys know it is totally possible to make dietary changes that benefit you. And again, you can also go back and listen to season 2, episode 23, if you want to figure out more about your specific triggers. So let's reflect. What did you notice about yourself as you listened to Kathy talk about plant-based eating? What thoughts and feelings came up for you? Are you able to distance yourself from some of these thoughts? Can you make room for some of these feelings? And what are you noticing about all of that noticing? Stay tuned for another guest episode next week and keep making the most of it. Special thanks to Marty for the original music and Charity Williams for the original artwork.